In the summer of 1324, a cloud of dust appeared on the horizon outside Cairo. The people of the city stopped what they were doing and stared. The ground began to tremble. The rhythmic thudding of thousands of footsteps and the groaning of camels grew louder by the minute. This was not an army. There were no war cries, no catapults, no weapons drawn. But there was gold, mountains of it. 500 men marched in the front, each carrying a staff of solid gold weighing 6 pounds. Behind them came 80 camels, each loaded with 300 pounds of gold dust packed into leather sacks. Behind the camels came 60,000 people, soldiers, scholars, poets, slaves, and servants, all moving across the desert like a city on legs. And at the center of it all, dressed in robes of the finest silk, sat a king. His name was Mansa Musa. He was the emperor of Mali, and he was about to do something that no single human being has done before or since. He was about to crash the economy of the entire medieval world by accident, just by being generous. But to understand how one man could hold that much power, you need to understand where he came from. And the story begins not with gold, but with a king who sailed into the ocean and never came back. Mansa Musa didn't expect to be emperor. In the year 1312, the throne of Mali belonged to a man named Abu Bakr II. Abu Bakr was not your typical king. He had no interest in politics or conquest. He was obsessed with one question: what lies beyond the ocean? The people of West Africa had been navigating rivers and coastlines for centuries, but Abu Bakr believed the Atlantic was not endless. He believed there was land on the other side, and he was determined to find it. So he gathered a fleet of 2,000 ships. He loaded them with gold, fresh water, and enough food for years. He appointed his deputy, a man named Musa, to rule in his absence, and then he sailed west, into the open ocean, and was never seen again. No one knows what happened to Abu Bakr II. Some historians believe he reached South America centuries before Columbus. Others think the fleet was swallowed by the Atlantic. Either way, Musa, a man who had never expected to wear the crown, was now the most powerful ruler in West Africa. And the empire he inherited was unlike anything the world had seen.
The Mali Empire in the 14th century was enormous. It covered roughly 500,000 square miles, stretching across what is now Mali, Senegal, Gambia, Guinea, and parts of Mauritania. It was the largest empire West Africa has ever known. But its true power wasn't its size. It was what lay beneath the soil. Mali sat on top of 3 massive gold fields: Bambouk, Bouré, and Galam. These were geological miracles. The gold was so plentiful that during the rainy season, it would sometimes wash up among the roots of plants. Farmers would find nuggets of gold while digging for yams in their gardens. Historians estimate that nearly half of all the gold circulating in the Eastern Hemisphere, the gold used by merchants in Venice, the gold used by kings in France, the gold used by sultans in Cairo, came from the mines of Mali. Every time a merchant in Italy paid for a shipment of spices, or a king in England paid his soldiers, they were likely holding a piece of metal that had been dug out of the ground by a subject of Mansa Musa. Mali was the engine room of the medieval global economy, and Mansa Musa was the man holding the keys. Mansa Musa was a devout Muslim, and in Islam, one of the 5 pillars of faith is the Hajj, the pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca that every Muslim is expected to make at least once in their lifetime. Mansa Musa could certainly afford the trip, but a king does not travel like a normal pilgrim. He spent years preparing. He emptied the provincial treasuries. He conscripted an entire city of people to move with him. When the caravan finally departed from the capital of Niani in 1324, it consisted of 60,000 people. Think about that for a moment. That is the population of a small city, all walking together across the Sahara Desert. There were soldiers to protect the king, scholars to discuss theology, poets to record the journey, merchants to handle logistics, 12,000 slaves to serve the court, and thousands of goats and sheep driven alongside for food. The logistics alone are staggering. They needed water, they needed food, they needed fodder for the animals. The caravan moved like a slow glacier across the sands, and as it moved, Musa began to spend. He didn't believe in hoarding wealth. He believed it was a gift from God meant to be shared. If he saw a poor person, he gave them gold. If he saw a mosque that needed repair, he paid for a new one. It is said that every Friday, wherever the caravan stopped, he built a mosque. The rumor of his approach reached Cairo long before he did, and the merchants of Cairo, the greatest trading city in the medieval world, were rubbing their hands in anticipation. They had no idea what was about to happen to them.
When Mansa Musa arrived in Cairo, the Sultan invited him to the citadel. There was a diplomatic problem. In the Mamluk court, anyone who approached the Sultan was expected to kiss the ground at his feet. Mansa Musa was an emperor. He bowed to no man. The diplomats went back and forth. Finally, Musa agreed to visit, but he said he would only bow to God. When he entered the throne room, he walked past the Sultan, bowed his head slightly, and sat down beside him as an equal. Then the gifts began. He gave the Sultan 50,000 gold dinars. He gave gold to the viziers, gold to the generals, gold to the scribes. It was a river of wealth. And then Musa went shopping. For 3 months, he walked through the markets of Cairo. He saw Turkish silks he had never seen before, Venetian glass, pearls from the Persian Gulf, perfumes from Arabia, and he bought everything. He didn't haggle. If a merchant said a piece of cloth cost 10 dinars, Musa gave him 20. If a trader said a horse cost 100, Musa gave him 300. He handed out gold dust as if it were sand. And that's when the disaster began. The medieval world ran on gold. It was the currency of civilization. And suddenly, the markets of Cairo were flooded with more gold than anyone had ever seen. The value of gold collapsed, not by a little, but by as much as 25%. In modern terms, imagine if someone walked into your country and started handing out so much cash that your money became worth 25% less overnight. Bread prices skyrocketed, cloth prices doubled, rent surged. Ordinary people who had saved gold for years watched their savings evaporate. Merchants who held large reserves of gold saw their wealth shrink by the day. The historian El-Umari wrote that Musa flooded Cairo with his kindness. Another historian, El-Makrizi, recorded that the economy of Cairo took at least 12 years to recover. Some estimates say it took over a decade for the price of gold to return to normal across Egypt, Medina, and Mecca. Mansa Musa, on his journey home, realized what he had done. He tried to fix it. He borrowed gold back from Egyptian lenders at high interest rates, essentially trying to remove gold from circulation. It was, in effect, one of the first recorded instances of monetary intervention, a king playing central banker 600 years before the concept existed. But the damage was done. One man in one city, in 3 months, had caused an economic crisis that lasted for more than a decade. This is the only time in recorded history that a single individual controlled the global price of gold.
But here's the part of the story that almost never gets told. Mansa Musa was not just a man of gold. He was a man of knowledge. And his greatest legacy was not his wealth. It was a library. On his return from Mecca, Musa brought back scholars, architects, and librarians. He poured his wealth into a city that was already legendary, Timbuktu. Timbuktu became one of the greatest centers of learning in the world. Mansa Musa built madrasas, libraries, archives, and mosques. The city attracted scholars from across the Islamic world. At its peak, Timbuktu held hundreds of thousands of manuscripts, texts on astronomy, mathematics, medicine, philosophy, law, and poetry. Scribes translated the works of Plato and Hippocrates. They wrote original books on subjects ranging from the movement of stars to the medicinal properties of desert plants. One chronicler, named Mahmud Kati, even documented a meteor shower in August 1583, likely the Perseids, writing that stars flew around as if fire had been kindled in the whole sky. These manuscripts were not stored in a single grand library. They were kept in the homes of families across Timbuktu, passed down through generations, protected by a tradition where each family swore an oath to guard the collection for as long as they lived. Timbuktu was not a city of gold. It was a city of ideas. And for centuries, it held some of the most important knowledge in human history. Then, in 2012, it nearly burned.
During the Mali War in 2012, Islamist rebels captured Timbuktu. They considered many of the manuscripts, particularly those on subjects like astrology and philosophy, to be heretical. They burned over 4,000 manuscripts from the Ahmed Baba Institute. But something extraordinary happened. A librarian named Dr. Abdel Kader Haidara, whose family had guarded manuscripts for generations, organized a secret operation. Working with local families and international organizations, they smuggled 350,000 manuscripts out of Timbuktu, by boat, by donkey, by car, to the safety of Bamako, the capital of Mali, 400 miles to the south. These manuscripts included texts on mathematics that predated European advances by centuries, medical treatises on diseases that European doctors wouldn't study for another 200 years, maps of the stars drawn by African astronomers while most of Europe was still living through what they called the Dark Ages. As of 2022, 300,000 of those manuscripts were still in Bamako. Many have been digitized, but the majority remain unstudied, uncatalogued, and unread. The lost libraries of Timbuktu are still lost, not because they were destroyed, but because the world hasn't finished reading them yet. Mansa Musa died around 1337. His empire did not long survive him. Within a century, the Mali Empire had fragmented, and Timbuktu's golden age slowly faded under the pressures of war, colonialism, and time. But the story remains. A man who was so wealthy that his generosity broke an economy. A king who sailed into the unknown and never returned, leaving the throne to a deputy who would become the richest person in human history. An empire that sat on half the world's gold and used that gold not just for palaces and armies, but for books, libraries, and the pursuit of knowledge. We know the names of the richest people alive today. We know their companies, their rockets, their ambitions. But the richest person who ever lived, a man whose personal wealth is estimated at $400 billion in modern currency, is someone most people have never heard of. He didn't build a tech empire. He didn't disrupt an industry. He ruled a kingdom of gold in West Africa and used that gold to build libraries that held the knowledge of the world. And the next time someone tells you that Africa has no written history, remember Timbuktu. Remember the 350,000 manuscripts smuggled past men with guns by a librarian who refused to let knowledge burn. That is the real story of Mansa Musa. Not the gold, the books. If this is the first time you've heard this story, you're not alone. History is full of moments like this, extraordinary stories that were simply never told to you. Subscribe to The Lost Archive, and I'll keep finding them. Next week, the city that disappeared overnight. No war, no natural disaster, just gone. And we still don't know why.